Hello, Justin Boyd, Liberty University. I'm going to be covering my research project defense. On my research project, I was covering Edward Bernays and his unique type of propaganda in order to sell products. Prior to Edward Bernays, it was just talking about the form and function of a product, but not necessarily utilizing any other way to sell the product. He utilizes a concept of being able to emotionally attach a person to a product in order to manipulate people into purchasing something that they didn't really need, but they felt like they wanted. So in utilizing this, the research question I had was, is this beneficial to the consumer or to big business? And is this certain type of propaganda detrimental to society? So the types of sources I used on this was I was using certain Jewish Heritage Foundation sources to understand why it was that it was just Jewish people in the 20th century that kind of came up with these different concepts. And it started from the 13th century Europe, how Jewish people were used for the purpose of taxation collection and banking because Christians didn't believe in banking with interest, whereas Jews were okay with it. So that's why they were utilized, and that's why a lot of them are in banking today as well. So by doing this, this could end up being a potentially deadly type of profession to have. So what they did was they had to come up with a way of understanding how to persuade people without ending up dead, trying to get money, get tax money. So they've kind of, through the 13th century and through up until the 20th century, they were just kind of educating each other on how to manipulate and propagate in order to do these things and still end up okay. So that's what I utilized. I also utilized government documents, CIA documents, old military documents to understand how the psychological warfare aspect works. And then I also used documents from understanding algorithms and how modern day technology is utilizing this certain concept that Bernays used in order to kind of advertise and market to people. Another thing I looked at was other government sources, such as understanding federal regulations when it comes to allowing certain pharmaceuticals and different stuff like that in order to advertise when they are not allowed in any other country other than New Zealand. So I've come up with the idea from everything I looked at that it looks as if government manipulation per se through lobbying, since there are 12,000 lobbyists in Washington, D.C., when you kind of see a certain thing that is being pushed, and when you question your own sanity and you see things happen that go against the narrative of what you believe to be true or beneficial to an individual of the United States, when you research into it, you kind of understand that a lot of these actions that happen are due to money pushing lobbyists to allow the government to push things. So therefore, certain things are being manipulated through the acts of the government in the media, in Hollywood, in order to allow projects to get done, in order to allow movements to happen, in order to allow certain companies to have an upper hand over other companies. As soon as you do research and understand this, you kind of look at society differently than what you looked at it before. Almost like the difference to the movie Eyes Wide Shut. I call it Eyes Wide Open. So as soon as you kind of understand how society really works, I refer to that as being eyes wide open. So I think that with my paper and all the research I did, I kind of look at it that way. So from what I was looking at, does this help the consumer or the big business? It definitely helps the big business in many aspects. It increased their profits sometimes up to tenfold, depending on the different type of industry and the different type of funneling and sourcing that was done through the government and the media. So, and then basically, it's not necessarily what a consumer needs, but what they want. In pharmaceuticals and the food industry, another aspect I went into was how, as soon as the tobacco industry kind of went downhill, per se, the start of it in the 1980s, they started to fund source a lot of the food industries, putting high fructose corn syrup and different addictive entities that would allow them to become addictive, similar to tobacco. So I think it's definitely detrimental to society in many aspects, and big beneficial for big business. So thank you.